What's good, y'all? I'm so happy today to have this guy on. I've known this guy for over 10 years now, and he's been nothing but always a professional. And it's odd when I say that because most of the time I've known him, he was in college. And when we were in college, the dude just was professional. It was like, we in college, bro. Have fun. Which kind of lets you know what type of energy I had. But we all grow. That's what we doing here. Nonetheless, this guy has grown to be somebody that's really impressive. He talks, and me and him have been having conversations, especially before this, about how he thinks about finances. And it's been such an intriguing conversation because he speaks to my heart while at the same time keeping me in my place in the times that I am finally willing to act out like the person that I should sometimes, but I struggle with, as in spending money. And this guy's going to be able to be a wealth of information. He's going to give us the path to get to where he is clearly. And I'm hoping that you all definitely find his story as a telling one, and one that will allow you to know how easy or difficult it will be for you to achieve that. And with that, man, let's get straight to it. The most important question that allows me to even have you on here is, do you like your job, man?
That's a valid question, and I actually do like my job. I enjoy being good at something, coming in every day, and being in a financial role. Education is in my background has been kind of solidified, and being able to put that into practice is a really good feeling.
Okay, okay. What, gotta say this question. What was it that you wanted to do as a profession, career, job? What was that first job or career profession that you ever wanted to have?
The one that I can recall most vividly was an animator. I was fascinated by Pixar when Toy Story and the other movies were coming out. I was like, "Yo, that sounds dope." Who are the people that actually like get to make those every day?
Yeah.
Um, so that was top of my list was animator at Pixar.
Well, that was pretty cool. What, like, the thing is, I've been asking people this all this time, and I am clearly a stereotypical kid from where I grew up, who's grown up to be more than what he may have known. And it's just always intriguing to hear people actually say positions that are jobs and careers,
Yeah.
not in entertainment. Because I was all into the sports. So when you say something like, "Oh, that's seems valid. That sounds fun. Why would anyone choose their mind?" I wouldn't even have thought of that at that
Yeah, I
age.
mean, I was very much like a person or a kid who thought about what goes on behind the scenes. Like, how does all this great things that end up in front of me happen? And so I've always been curious about that. And so, I just did a couple of jobs. So, there's actually people that work every day to make these things happen and then make people feel a certain way. So the fascination with how things get to a certain point has always been a part of my ethos. And so, animation and Pixar was like a thing because I love, good movies and kid movies at the time.
So without saying what your actual profession is yet, what was it that made you switch from that pretty sweet and lucrative career
Yeah.
to the one you're in?
Well, it had everything to do with what I was good at. So I'm not a creative. I don't have an eye for it. I don't have a feel for it. And so it quickly became a transition that had to do something that I was good at first and foremost, because I couldn't sit here and struggle to make a living. But also something that I could use my talent, my skill, and develop over time and get really, really good at it versus just like starting from zero.
Okay. Okay. Did you have anybody try to cultivate that skill though?
I think my life cultivated that skill. So my father and my mother were very frugal in the way they approached their finances and the way they approached like vacations and all the stuff that I grew up around people who just live lavishly. We didn't experience that directly. Our conversations were always about money and the possibility of what it can accomplish. Um, so I had a very strong comfort level with money very early on and had an introduction to it through the frugal nature of my parents.
Okay, no. I meant for clarity, which I would have to appreciate that story because it's gonna
Mhm.
allow me to maybe ask some more things down the road. But my immediate question is directed towards the other career, the one where you would have worked for Pixar.
Oh yeah.
Did anybody try to cultivate that skill and really push you closer to that dream?
No, no, I very much kept that within the confines of like myself. Um, I didn't have an experience of like mentors or like people saying you should go left or right, up or down. It was just more about do what you want to do. And so I was very much challenged with this idea of what I really want to do versus you should be a lawyer, like you should be a doctor. It was less about what I was going to do, just more focused on what do I want to do, which was, a more nuanced path than like somebody saying, "Hey, you look like you should be a doctor or lawyer."
Okay. All right. I mean, I'm just curious to know that. So, with that, let's get straight to it. I'm going to stop holding people back from knowing exactly what it is that you do. So, do me a favor, Derek. Uh, Tell them exactly what your title is
Mhm.
and what that actually means.
Yeah, so I am a director of finance for a major retailer, and what that means in practice is I help the business spend the money in the most efficient way possible. So as my company brings in revenue or brings in money from selling clothes and other things, they sign off, they allocate some of that money to me to help grow the company, to help uh, foster, a better business environment. And so my job, in effect, is to make sure that the company is viable moving forward. So they give me, not saying the actual number, but a couple $100 million to allocate to a certain function and make sure that our customers are satisfied when they shop.
Okay.
Okay.
Do me a favor. If you got it offhand, that'd be perfect. Just
Yeah.
if you want to include your actual company name in there, that's cool. If not, can you give like 3 to 4, even if you want to go to 5, companies like yours that exist so people know exactly when you're telling your stories, they can potentially
Yeah.
picture what type of items a company like yours will be purchasing.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, so including my company in this number of companies, the major competitors in this space are Nordstrom, um, Bloomingdale's, Macy's, Dillard's, Kohl's, just major department store retailers.
Yeah. Okay. So with that, you mentioned a astronomical number
Mhm.
that they gave you, but well, they didn't give you, but you're in charge of and responsible for. With that, I'm just curious to know what type of things are you actually purchasing? That's why I had you say that because it's like, I
Yeah.
mean, a company, if people really understand businesses, you got to buy paper for the actual entire
Mhm.
office, the entire building. You have to buy the actual printers. You got to actually buy the clothes. You got to pay the truck
Mhm.
drivers. Like,
Right.
there's an entire infrastructure that is from top down.
Right.
You all have a big event. There's food there. I mean, I
Mhm.
just want to be clear that there's so much that this money could be allocated to. So I'm just curious to know what exactly is it being allocated to? Is it being? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so my specific division is essentially paying for payroll. So when you call my company or you email us or you chat with us online, person at that line has to answer that call, or that chat, or that email. And so what I help allocate resources to is people in payroll to support that interaction and make it the most efficient and cost-effective way possible. And I also support all of the, or a lot of the capital, or what we would call stuff behind that interaction. So the computers and the technology and the other things that help support those colleagues or those people that are answering phone calls or emails or chats and contacts there. So I'm effectively in charge of the customer interaction when you are either shopping with us, when you are getting a credit card with us, when you are, maybe you don't pay off your credit card, now your collections, that call is all I'm responsible for, making sure that our company is getting the most out of people that are to do that work.
Okay. Oh, okay. I heard my echo. Sorry. So do me a favor. As we're talking about what you do, can you give a day in the life? If it's not
Mhm.
too detailed and if it's not exposing any secrets, can you give a day in the life of your actual profession? Because I also want to point out that it's highly unlikely that you're doing the research. Well, you could be, but I'm guessing at this point, especially for all the stuff that you need to be in charge of and to be focused on, especially related to finance, I would guess that you're not the one looking up the new technology that needs to be purchased. Somebody's presenting that to you, and then you're making a well-informed decision about whether or not this is the thing to buy. I'm guessing that people are giving you maybe reports for you to make the decision based off of the work they did, because you don't have time to be trying to look through every single thing. I'm just guessing that
Yeah.
going on with your business, because right now it sounds like you're looking those things up, but I don't see where you would even have time to do that. So what's a day in the life look like, and just trying to flush out the actual position?
Yeah, so as a director, my job is to support my team who supports me. And so to your point, all of the research, all of the the information that's going back and forth between us and vendors, people who actually buy and sell stuff to us, um, all of the financial data that's being combed through to figure out what's going on in our business and whether or not we are hitting our objectives or not, is done by the team. And what I do specifically in my day to day is report up to my boss and my boss's boss, to give the financials to the broader organization. I answer a lot of emails on people who are trying to figure out where we're at, what we're doing, and where we're going. I take a lot of meetings with people who are invested and want to know about the financial ramifications of their decisions. And so my whole job is to essentially keep the boat afloat, with the most pertinent and important information being shared throughout the entire organization. So I wake up every morning, I start combing through my emails because I get about 100 to 200 emails a day from people just needing check-ins and checkups and reporting. I'll take meetings with my boss or my boss's boss. I will support my team and make sure they're getting to whatever they need. I'm essentially leading leaders at this point. I did the grunt work, I did the financial analysis, I did all those things, and now I've taken all that knowledge and either shared it with my team or their organization, and making sure I'm managing expectations overall.
Okay. So do me a favor. Let's take some major steps back. You mentioned your family earlier,
Mhm.
and me and you before we actually started recording talked a good amount about just how you see finances, as well as the way you want to live your life through your finances. And so, do me a favor and give us a little bit of an understanding of what that actually looked like, what the thought process behind that was growing up, and how it rubbed off on the way you see money.
Yeah, it's a good point. So, growing up, my father, my mother moved us around a lot. We moved because he worked for the Federal Bureau of Prisons, and you couldn't move up without moving out. And so, as my father took on increasing roles and responsibilities within the Federal Bureau of Prisons, we had to move all over the country. And so, in doing that, I got to watch him buy and sell houses because we had to, sell a house to buy another house. I watched him do math problems, as he was like at the dinner table. There was always an awareness that um, we had to keep our finances intact. We had to live beneath our means. So as I had friends who were going on vacations to Disneyland and taking trips all over the country for vacations, our vacation was the move. And my father always instilled in me this idea that, like, look, this isn't your money. You got to earn your own money, and I'll support you along the way. But it was always a point to say, like, I want something, Dad. Oh, do you have money for that? Do you have a job? You should get a job. If you don't have a job, you should go find a job. So there was always an impetus to go figure it out on my own. And it always centered around money because everything I wanted, the avenue to get to that point, had to go through some way of acquiring dollars and cents.
Yeah. So that story touches to my heart, not because I didn't move around like you did, but I remember talking to my sister, and I remember just recognizing at a certain point that the new shoes that I got oftentimes came when it was time for me to play basketball. And my mother always made sure I had a good pair of shoes when
Yeah.
basketball season came around. And I also knew that those shoes may cross over into what I'm going to have to wear during the school year. So I would play it very well. It was like I loved basketball. Let's be clear. It was my first sport. If I would have grown to be the height that I thought Dr. Tell you supposed to be like
Right.
6'5", 6'7". Like I
Yeah.
was like, all right, yeah, cool. If I would have grown to that, I would have expected to actually try to play in college and maybe taking a stab at the league. But obviously I didn't. Nonetheless, I remember my sister just like, yeah, you need to make sure that you're being responsible with the money. If you're given $10 and it's for you to have, spend it on whatever you need to spend it on, but always try. I mean, she never said this number, but she essentially was telling me the 10% rule. Always save at least 10%, at least 10%.
Yeah.
And so I always did. And I always had just a stash of money when I was a little kid, just always stashed into the corner, which allowed me to invest into my earliest relationship, which was a completely unhealthy relationship, which was with Lil Debbie. Me and her honey buns and her Swiss rolls, we built
Yeah.
a really good relationship to the point that it created cavities in my life. But but I definitely got to understand that to the point that when I got to college, I hated when I finally had a bank account. I was like, you know what? I hate always having to look at my bank account. So I'm always going to continue to live under my means,
Hmm.
be significantly cheaper than I need to be. That way I know I always have the money. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah,
Um,
and I never saw the money growing up. So, the first time I saw how much my dad made was when he was filling out a FAFSA, and I had to turn it in FAFSA is like an application to get into school to get financial aid. And he had to disclose his income on the front. I was like, wait, you making how much money? And how long have you been making this money? Because I remember Christmases where I'd make a list of like everything I wanted. As a kid, you make a list. You start out with the one thing you want, and then everything kind of cascades from it. And I remember never getting not even the top three things I wanted. It was always like in the middle of the list and as if they flipped it and reversed it. And I didn't think we were poor or like we didn't have means. I just got a sense that like I can't have everything I want. And so, or if everything I wanted wasn't going to be given to me. And so growing up over time, like, I would be denied, I wouldn't be denied meals, but like, it'd be like, yo, you ain't going to McDonald's today,
mhm.
because we got food at the house. You know, I wouldn't be denied a bike, but I wouldn't get that mongoose bike. I would get that off-brand bike that no kid wants to ride around in. So I was always taught very early on, yeah, you can get what you want. It's going to take work, and oh, by the way, not too many people are going to give it to you. And if they are going to give it to you, you're going to get what you're going to get. So um, the idea behind money and living was started with living beneath my means. That if I ever want anything, it would have to take some sacrifice. But if I really wanted it, it would pay off. That sacrifice would pay off.
Now it's starting to make sense. I'm hearing from the previous conversation all of this now. I'm I'm getting where it's not like some people like you were scarred as a child and now you're frugal. It's like no, this guy. It sounds like your dad was cultivating this in you, regardless of whether or not you knew it or liked it as a child. I am curious though, because as youth, even at 18 or 19, we can see our parents' salary and think, "Oh man, you make that much money? You was that
Yeah.
cheap?" As an adult, though, and it could be yes or no, it doesn't matter. As an adult, when you look back at that number that you were impressed by, with you and whoever else was in your household, was that and the type of lifestyle you were actually living, was the amount of money he was making really a lot, or was it reasonable, even within your standards now, for him to have been living the way he was?
Yeah, I would say it was better than the average American, but I would say to raise three kids and put them all through school and do all the things he was doing to retire on time and all that other things, it wasn't a lot of money. So um, I think what he did was made a conscious decision to say, look, I'm going to support my family in the way that they need me to. And at the same time, I'm not going to sacrifice my livelihood in order to do it. So there's something he had to give, and the give was y'all ain't gonna have a vacation every year. Y'all ain't gonna have Jordans on your feet. You ain't gonna be a Foot Locker getting a new pair of shoes, every 6 months. So, I think in retrospect, he did what he had to do, and he honestly did what I would do, um, which is take a cut on some things to be able to enjoy other things.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. And that's what I was getting at, because I figured that he most likely was taking care of needs
Mm-hmm.
with the
Absolutely. Yeah.
understanding of, all right, I hear your wants, but what's
Right.
never going to happen is my kids are going to need something that I can't afford.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that's brilliant, man. And many people don't understand that. And actually, even as you increase your income, that's where people think that we got to spend more. And in fact, sometimes it's like, nah, maybe you should even save less. I mean, spend less, because look at Zuckerberg, look at Jobs. They didn't even, most times when you see them, they had the exact same clothes on. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we're thinking we got to put on all these name brands. It's like, no, you're
Yeah.
working this hard to build a name. You don't have to buy the brand, because you are the brand. You can make your brand within a budget that allows you to live, truly live the life you want to live, opposed to just survive. And it sounds like, frankly, um, when I'm talking to you, somebody on the outside can see some of the things that you do in your day to day habitual life, and think, man, this guy must really be struggling. But truth be told, little do they know, you're the guy who likes to live under his means.
Yeah, and I think people make the argument, what's a coffee a day going to save, and what's not buying these, and there's an argument to say, yeah, I should buy these things because I want to enjoy life, I want to have a happy lifestyle. So to me, it all hinges back on what you're trying to accomplish. For me personally, it's always been about having the lifestyle that mimics this idea of delayed gratification.
Mhm.
That even as I buy these clothes today, and as I spend all this money, I don't really have a sense of like what I want and like the luxury that I want to attain. If you ask my 20-year-old self to dress me now, we wouldn't be wearing the same things. And so the idea behind delayed gratification is that you don't never experience the good things and the nice things. You just don't do it today, or do it today in its fullest. So I've always been tied to, or like had an affinity for this idea that, look, it's going to take some work and some sacrifice, but that work and sacrifice is not, it's going to be exponentially better than if I just continue to operate in a way that I most other people do. If you want different results, you got to act differently. And so the lifestyle I lead is very much mirrored, not so much that I am without. It's that knowing that one day I'm going to have, and when I'm having it, like, you're gonna know it. Like, I'm gonna pull up, like, you're gonna see me. But right now, in the stage that I'm at, I gotta sacrifice and save.
I feel that. So yesterday was Black Friday,
Mhm.
and let's be honest,
Yep.
did you participate?
No, I don't have anything to buy.
That,
Like, my whole thing is when I walk into a store, I ask the question, who is buying all this stuff, not like all the things I need. So my mentality is very much set up to say, what do I need, and what is essential, and what are my values. Right now, I don't have um, put a lot of value into things. I'm more into experiences. And so if I was going to do anything on Black Friday, it would be buying a plane ticket, or a vacation or something like that. And I don't really have the option of doing that in this COVID environment. So I will say, if it was Black Friday and they were giving discounts on plane tickets or vacations, I might have went in, but I didn't participate because a lot of that's centered around consuming goods, and I'm just not a consumer of goods.
okay. So I only asked that for two reasons. And First reason is I remember going out yesterday to hit the mall. I think I stopped through Macy's.
Mhm.
Ran through. I didn't really want to walk through the mall. I feel like it was gonna be even just a thing of just germs all through there. So I was like, I just
Yeah.
go run to Macy's and run out. I actually parked exactly in the department that I need to get to. But as soon as I walked in, I struggle with spending money. So I fully understand it. I remember driving there thinking, this is the most American thing you could do. Like, this is the most privileged situation that we don't even realize, where it's like in the middle of a pandemic,
Right.
in the middle of people losing jobs or not having jobs and trying to figure out their finances, we have still figured out a way to make people ignore the fact that there's a financial, economical issue going on within our country, and you should give away more of your money. Now, I recognize the economy needs you to do that,
Yeah.
but individually, is that the best decision for you? And it's just really interesting thinking about that. But the second part is, I agree with you on the whole conversation of I'd much rather, and that's why I'm struggling. I'm struggling. That's where we're leading to this question. I'm struggling during this pandemic because I really planned this entire 2020 to be a year of traveling. Like,
Yeah.
I spent in February, I was in Vegas for 10 days for work, but I also had a Miami work trip. I had a Nashville work trip. I had uh, my annual Florida trip coming up, mixed with two countries, one for the anniversary and one coming up now in
Yeah.
December for the holiday season to a different country. And I planned on traveling every weekend. Now, what you all don't know, while you're listening to this guy talk about not pretty much not spending money ever, is how I pretty much hear it. Outside of him making sure he's covering his needs, is what he told me was 3 of the 4 weeks of the month, he's traveling to a different city. He's
Right.
acquiring the experiences. That's where my heart is. I save my money so I can go eat food in another city. That's what I like doing. And I'm being very specific. I'm trying to go to your city to eat whatever the food is there that I can't eat here. So how have you held up? And break down, I definitely want to hear how have you held up during this whole situation
Mhm.
where you're not able to travel because you just seem so poised. And for me, it is driving me crazy and
Yeah.
it's making me want to spend money since I'm not spending money. And the second part is, are you as frugal during your regular life as you are during your traveling life?
It's a good question. So to answer your first question, I've been holding up fine. I think I've been focused on what I do have, which is a continuation of my job through the course of the pandemic. I got friends and family that I can connect with. It has been a little harder not to be able to move and move at a pace that I am comfortable with. But what I've done to compensate that is just plan trips in 21. So like I got all the stuff lined up. I've bought plane tickets. I bought hotel stays and all the things for 21. So my 21 is gonna go crazy, especially after this vaccine hits. Like I'm going off. You ain't gonna see me. Plus I got vacation to spend that I can carry over. It's gonna be a wrap. So I'm glad y'all got this interview in now because you ain't gonna see me for a whole year next year. To answer your second question, it is interesting. So when I am in the city I'm at, I'm very much focused on saving and being frugal and living the lifestyle that I need to live in order to get to a point where I'm trying to get to. But when I'm on vacation or when I'm kind of experiencing life through a different city or a different set of people, I'm not living lavish, but I'm living it up, and I'm a great time. And I think what I need sometimes as I'm living frugally and sacrificing and kind of doing the things I need to do is I need a couple of releases. I need to get a sense of after I save all this money that I'm going to be spending it at some point, and I need to know how to enjoy myself when I get there. Like I don't want to be one of those people that saves a bunch of money, piles it up, and then dies with it, sitting next to him. Like no, my last check is going to bounce. So all this sacrifice will get to a point where like I'm going to spend this money and everybody's going to enjoy it with me, because I love experience. I love seeing people happy. And so when I'm on vacation, those, every weekend, 3 weekends out of the year, like I'm eating good, I'm buying drinks, you know, I'm taking people scuba. I'm doing all the things. I'm buying tickets to games I don't belong in. I'm buying all concert tickets, and I'm not sitting up in the nosebleeds. I'm sitting where I can smell them, you know. So that dynamic is helpful for me to give me a sense of how I'm going to act when I do get the money, but also not to the point where like I'm doing it all the time, so I can actually acquire wealth and live comfortably.
All right, so for people who heard him talking and thinks that it sound good, I just need to highlight that my guy clearly for some reason is a huge LSU fan, and in the process went to a couple games and then went to the national championship. Oh,
Yeah.
my bad, I forgot to mention the most important part, and was on the field of the national championship when they had the confetti and everything coming down, just
Yeah.
taking pictures. I don't even know if he like did you touch somebody's back? Like, hey man, good game, and get the sweat on
So
your hands. Did you see OBJ giving him the money and tell him, hey bro, don't do it. Don't do it. That's a
I'll tell you what. So just a little inside information. As LSU was going to win the game, I was walking on the field, and then the confetti hit. And in that situation, like everybody's running around. You got media running around. You got players running around. I know I'm dapping up Tyrann Mathieu just to drop a name. I didn't see OBJ, but I did see Jarvis Landry.
Joes. I'm a Browns fan, so I just need
Oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah. I definitely saw him. He was there.
he out there blessing them.
Yeah. So I mean, like that's what I'm saying. Like, and that championship game wasn't cheap. It wasn't, and you don't end up on the field because, like, you don't know people. So I think the distinction is that yes, it's all about balance, right?
Mm,
It's all about enjoying yourself, but not to the extent that you have you sacrifice your future. But at the same time, you don't sacrifice today at the expense of like experiencing what's going on right now. So yeah, like I have really dope stories, and that's really what I want to end up with when I want to be old man looking back on life and like saying all these dope stories that I have and all these experiences I have, and I don't want to have them all at 80, or I don't want to have to not have them at 80. So it's all about balancing all the way through and doing what I can now to enjoy myself, but at the same time, like knowing I got a long horizon to think about, and in doing that, like I have a really great time, uh, and at the same time, like I'm one day closer to retirement
mhm.
every day.
Yeah, yeah. And how does he pull this off? And I was gonna say it, but I got you here. So for the layman, because I understand this lifestyle. I've done it. I am Ali a very high energy person who's also an introvert that most people don't realize the introvert. And well, I'm not really a true introvert, but I prefer to be alone a lot sometimes. And I fully could go really like just be right here, even kill, and then be all the way on the level. And
Hmm.
it's a switch that I know how to turn on quickly. And because I've been an athlete and exhausted after a full day of work, football practice, and then school, and then having to still live life, I've been used to feeling exhausted and working through that. So
Hmm.
Monday morning, after going hard, doing experiences, eating good food, seeing different places, maybe not sleeping a lot because you're in the location for such a brief amount of time. You want to consume as much as possible. I fully understand how to just go to your job on a Monday morning and just work like yeah, you would love to go to sleep, but you have memories that you can't throw away, and you're going to be able to go to sleep when you get home. So
Right.
can you break down just so people understand exactly how you're pulling off these weekend trips, three weekends in a row or 3 weekends a month?
Yeah. So it all started with a bunch of sacrificing when I got my first paycheck. So I haven't been doing this for a long time. It's been 2 or 3 years I've been doing this. Before then, I was slumming it. I was saving money. I was hitting my goals. And when I got to a point where I was fortunate enough to get more money over time out and still save the same amount, I weaned some of that money off to have experiences. But I will say, even now, as an example, I look at my apartment. It is it's pretty cheap. And I don't have a lot of guests because it's not a place you want to hang out in. But the deal I made with myself is anything I don't spend on rent. People spending $1,200, $1,500 in rent at some point. I can spend on plane tickets. So the bargain with myself is I don't need a nice place to stay because I'm going to be in other places. Or, for example, my car situation. So I had a nice car, and then I looked at all the trips I was taking to and from the airport or to and from work or maybe downtown for a little bit. And I said, well, at the same time, my car's sitting there idle, not doing anything for most of the time. So I looked at all the places I went and I said, well, there's a bus that goes there. So I'll just get rid of my car and ride the bus and get a bus pass. And so that's what I did. And so every step along the way, the illustration is what I want to accomplish, and how do I get there? Because if I know and I'm tied to exactly what I want, the things like a nice apartment don't seem as nice, or the things like a nice car don't seem as nice because I don't need or want those things, right? And so the sacrifice I'm making is not so much at the expense of my enjoyment or delight. It's just saying I don't value these things equally, and so I can spend half of the rent on a place and still feel comfortable because I'm taking a flight two thirds of the weekends out of the month, you know. So it's just making that bargain with yourself and not sacrificing what you want. It's just a matter of being really connected to what you want.
Yeah, yeah. Um, man, the car conversation, it's such a real one, and I need you all to take in the fact that a guy who understands finances, he yeah, it may be a little bit more extreme in your perspective because of the lifestyle you're used to living, the way that you want to live, and everyone has the right to live the life they want to live.
Right.
But when you truly know what you want, you're able to sacrifice the things that you don't necessarily want the most that may take from you acquiring your real goals that your heart really desires. So for me, hearing him talk the way he's talking, it makes sense to me. I mean, as much as I like having people over and hosting experiences, but I also like going out, like experiencing things in different cities. So I fully understand, respect that, so much so that I spent 2 years driving around a Prius, and people probably was just like, "Why is he always driving that Prius?" Like they told me drive the car like it's yours. It was a
Yeah.
company car. They told me drive it like it's yours. I'm like, when should I not drive this? It's like drive it like it's yours. I was like, okay. I owned the car. My car sat just sat there
Yeah.
for 2 years, which was irresponsible. Now I'm driving it now, and I'm having to take care of it a little bit better. But I drove that Prius around. It wasn't the most beautiful thing, but when people ask me like, "Why are you doing that? You know how much?" And I said, "Do you know how much free costs? Like, I don't pay a single thing for this car. Like,
Yeah.
why would I not save all of that money?" And I've never leased a car. I have a Honda Elantra outside, and it is it's my baby because due to having that car and not having the car note on it, regardless of how people see me hop out of it, like that car is the reason, and similar to what you're talking about, that I'm able to save and to have saved enough money and to have spent enough money to have gotten out of student loan debt. Like,
Right.
and that's like meaning like you can see the car, and it's like I look at the car and I sit here and struggle like, man, should I get a new car? And I'm like, but you're keeping so much money. like, like,
Yeah.
like
And for some people, like the decision to get a car is like, I want a new car, so get a new car. But you just have to know that when you do that, you can't do other things. You know, we live in a world that has limited resources, and every decision has an opportunity cost. This idea that, look, I can't make a decision without denying other things. And
Mhm.
so for me, the car was all about, well, yeah, a nice car, but what do I really want? Like, because I don't have any more people in my life that I love because of the car. People really aren't that impressed unless I have like a really nice car, like a Lamborghini or something. So like I'm not impressing people, which I don't care about. It gets me to where I need to go, but at the same time, so does the bus. So you do this deduction that says, hey, look, uh, all of these things that society has put value on, I'm gonna just throw it out the window and say, what do I really want? And if I start with that, all the things around me start to look and feel different. You know, I don't need like all this furniture in the house. And I got a beanbag behind because I don't have a couch because I don't need a
My
couch.
God, bro, get you.
you
Now
know,
that was extreme. I'm sorry.
you
That
know,
seems way extreme, bro.
like I'm sitting if you can't tell in like a little one of those little lounge lawn chairs because I don't need a nice chair.
Did you just say a launch? It better not be the white plastic ones that always had a back breaking on you and didn't let.
Nah, it's the foldable ones you put in the back of the car when you go out for the picnic. Yeah, I don't play like because at the end of the day, I'm not here very often. I'm not sitting down. I come in this apartment to sleep and go out, to just leave and go out and be in the world. So when you have a situation where you understand what you want and what you value, you can start knocking stuff off the list that you don't really need to pay for. You know. Now I do love nice meals, so like I don't use my stove. I don't have pots and pans though, because there's no reason for me to have pots and pans because I eat out all the time because I don't like to cook and I really enjoy eating different meals every day. So for me, it's all about what do I want, what do I like, what are my top priorities, and then everything else becomes secondary. Everything else becomes a conversation, and or a maybe or a might. You know, my friends have nice places, so I'll just go hang out there. Like, I don't have a lack of experience of things. I just don't own the things. But I tell
And
you what, that bank account when it keeps going up, it looks so much better in my bank account than it does on my feet.
I swear for goodness, I swear for goodness. And I'll say this: we've been having fun having this conversation, and of course, got to get back to some other things. But I will say this: when it comes to the saving of the money and reallocating funds, it it's different when people think a certain and it sometimes make you smile because some people be like, look at this dude, and it actually takes away from people having to ask you for money because they think that you ain't got it. But the other thing is Tony Robbins, and I know I bring him up a lot when it comes to finance. He really exposed the fact that half the times we don't actually care about owning these things. We care about experiencing these things. And
Yeah.
so, as a person who my heart is a Corvette, if you all want to give me a Corvette, feel free, or a Lambo, or
Yeah.
a Dodge Viper was my first love. Then it was a Corvette, and then it was a Lambo. I really can't remember whether it was the Lambo or the Corvette first, but the Dodge Viper was second. The Dodge Viper was first. And so those are three cars I would love to experience. And I definitely say I think I was driving in Cincinnati and I looked to my right and somebody was whipping a Lambo towards downtown. And I was like, man, that's a Lambo. And I'm like, that's beautiful. And I was like, but it's in Cincinnati. Like in
Yeah.
Cincinnati, you could drive like a Lexus or like a Mercedes, and it's like, that's cool. You don't really like. It's weird to say, but from my personal opinion, I feel that you don't really need a Lambo in Cincinnati. This ain't a Lambo city. Like like you can drive it. It's pretty cool, but it's like,
Yeah.
oh, like I much rather now, and that's why I'm curious to hear your perspective. And this is the last time we'll keep talking about the way we spend our money. I much rather like save my money and when I go to Miami or I go to Cali or some pretty place, rent a really nice car that may cost me a couple $100 or even maybe a couple $100, maybe 500, 700, however much it got to be, as long as it's reasonable and stupid. To experience it in the place that I want to experience it. I don't really care about driving a Lambo every single day. I don't think you should drive a Lambo every single day, especially considering the way the roads are in Cincinnati. So I much rather rent it for the times that I'm actually experiencing the things. Do you
Yeah.
ever? I know you mentioned food and being a good time. Like, what's your perspective on like renting cars when you go out of town? You probably Ubering. You probably Ubering.
Yeah, so that's a good point. So I mean, it's about what you want. It's
Mhm.
about where you place your value. So for me, um, I got to the point, riding the bus or riding Uber and Lyft, that I don't even like driving anymore. It's not even fun for me. Like driving is a chore now. And so instead of renting a car, I'd much rather go to a city that has a public transportation system and use that. It might take a little more time, but the idea of getting behind the wheel and like driving is nauseating. I mean, I understand why rich people hire drivers now, because if you get driven around for long enough, you start to not enjoy driving. So for me, if I go to a city, it's all about my value proposition, which is I'll spend a little more time riding around in the back seat, as an example, than I would enjoying, I don't know, driving the Maserati up a freeway. You know, and so it all goes back to what I want and what I think is the best experience for me. And again, granted, like I come from a place of privilege. Let's just get that out the way. Like I've had a great career. I've had parents that raised me in a way and supported me in a way that I can do and feel the way I want to feel. And so I don't want to sit here and suggest that, what I've got going on is something that like everybody has going on. But there are things within everybody's wheelhouse that they can accomplish, even if it's not, I'm making up a Lamborghini, because Lamborghini might not be in my wheelhouse at any point soon. Um, But as long as it's a possibility and as long as it's tied to what I want to do and rooted in my value system, I'm going to figure a way to make it happen. And I'm going to give some things up along the way.
Hmm. All right, so let's get straight. Let's get back to it and break down your journey to becoming
Mhm.
the person you are in the finance industry. Well, not
Yeah.
the finance industry, but in the retail industry doing finance.
Yeah. So it really started with my decision to study finance in high school. I found that the math classes that I was taking, algebra, geometry, calculus, and things like that, came a little easier than other subjects. I found that English and literature and some of the history subjects were enjoyable for me. So I took that foundation, I took it to Xavier University, and started my business degree in finance. I think over time in Xavier, I joined clubs. You know, I was a college collegiate athlete. I did a lot of things outside of the school environment. You know, even like partied and had a good time and made friends, even at like at UC as an example. You know, ergo why we know each other. Um, and so doing that, I basically coupled my education with this idea that I was in leadership roles on campus, supporting the students and leadership. Um, and you know, I didn't have a financial internship going into my senior year, but I did have a degree that I was going to acquire. So most of the jobs and internships I had in school were all about leadership. So they were developing people, developing students, it was writing articles about leadership. It was very much about telling a story on, you know, leadership and what it can accomplish and what we need to do as great leaders. I took that resume, which again didn't have a lot of financial experience, but did have my financial background, and acquired a job at my current employer. Came in as like an accountant, basically. So I made sure the accounts in the company were clean, that they didn't have any, you know, errors in them. I reported information to my boss that they can go consume and inform the corporation. And I continually told them this is what I want to do as a career. Right. So I was very vocal, not in a forceful way, but very vocal about what I liked and what I didn't like about my job. And so the company started making the job based off of what I liked, because I was good at what I did. And so as I started doing and kept doing what I was good at, which is planning financial plans and you know, communicating to the organization either through presentations or through email or whatever the case may be on what we should be doing and how we should be spending our money, the company just gave me more responsibility. And so the key that I've always been hinged to is that, like, if you tell people what you want and you act like that's what you want, you know, the world, or at least the people around you, will start formulating an opinion that says, oh yeah, that is really what they want. And so we'll try to make sure that we get them in a position where they can be successful, because my success was their success. And I knew that I couldn't be successful without their help. And so uh, through the course of my career, from a manager of finance to a director of finance, it's always been tied to me understanding the math behind what we're doing, but also understanding how to tell a story, how to lead people, how to communicate, how to network, how to inspire folks, how to convince and make my boss's job easier. So that's led me to where I'm at today, which is miles ahead of where I thought I'd ever be. I was a very I was promoted young. I took advantage of a few opportunities. So we were in a state where we were growing. So, you know, maybe the job that I applied for wouldn't have been given to me had we not been in a growing state, in the role wasn't available. But I look at all those things as, you know, just taking advantage of the opportunities that were presented to me. And so I made sure that I was always prepared in preparing. And when the opportunity hit, I was ready to go. And ever since really high school, I've been taking advantage of every opportunity that presented itself in front of me, and use it not necessarily as a way to say, hey, look, this is the path I want to take, but more so, these are the things I want to accomplish. And I'm going to accept all the things that lead me to that point and deny the things that don't.
Hmm.
And I've gotten to this point. So I couldn't have told you 10 years ago where I'd ended up, but I could tell you what I wanted. And I'm pretty much where I'm at and where I want to be.
I love hearing people talk about how, and shout out to all the companies that are listening to their employees. I love hearing someone say, I told them what I wanted to do, and they shaped my position, or they made a position for me within the company because it was making their life easier. It was
Mhm.
making things better for the
Right.
organization, and it would have made me happier. So I am curious to know. So you mentioned you were essentially an accountant when you came
Mhm.
into your company,
Yeah.
and was it the accountant position that they molded into something that you wanted to do? Did they create a whole new title, or was this like what phase was this, and what did that actually look like? If you don't mind sharing, it's not explaining any
Yeah.
secret.
No, it's good. So when I came, I was an accountant, and most people in finance do not like accounting, right? The differentiation between accounting and finance, a way a finance person would say it, is that financiers look forward. They try to anticipate what's going to happen. Accountants reconcile what already happened and make sure everything, the story is clean. And it's a simple way of looking at it, but that's how I viewed it. And so I was very much telling my boss, because they would ask for feedback. They would ask for how you doing, what you up to, are you doing okay? Because they invest a lot of money to bring people into the business to support it. And so I was very much vocal about, hey, look, this accounting stuff, it's great, but it's not my favorite. I'd much rather be in the financial aspect of planning and talking about where we're going, not necessarily where we've been. And so that role that I had in accounting, or an accounting function, um, it popped up that the planner in the company was going to another company, and my boss approached me, said, Derek, like, this might be a good opportunity for you, because uh, you've been saying you want to do these things, so here, you should probably go talk to this person who I've already talked to. And they said, yeah, you'd be good for the role. So a lot of the roles I've had were more about me vocalizing what I want, and the people around me working in a way that says, hey, look, we're going to support you, and not necessarily support you, because I think they're thinking about their career as well, and who they can help, and who can help them. And so when you say out loud what you want, it might not be there today, and it wasn't for at least 2 years. But as soon as it popped up, I was on the list of people that they were considering for the position, and I was basically first in line, because they knew what I wanted, and they knew I was good at what I did, and they too wanted to fill the role in a way that had somebody who knew what they wanted and was good at what they did.
Okay. Okay. Uh, hmm.
And I will say that in all of that, doors opened up, and I just made sure I walked through them, right? And so I never took a day off at work, right? I knew that when I walked into that building, I was on the clock. There was no days off. And the days off did not just include what spreadsheets I was updating or what information I was pulling from our systems. It was about the conversations I had with my boss, and the conversation I had with his boss, and the conversation I had with their peers, and the conversation I had with my peers. And so I knew I was on all the time, because I knew at any given point, somebody who's interacting with me or engaging with me could be the next key to my next opportunity. And so I was very much approached it, my career, in a way that said, hey, I'm going to be helpful to you. I'm going to show you that I'm qualified and I'm good, and I'm going to support you. And I know that when things come up, I'm going to be on your list. I'm not going to ever ask you for anything. Don't need anything from you. But if you feel like I would be a good fit, you let me know and I'll decide at that point. And so my being helpful to other people in my organization has put me in positions that I probably wouldn't have gotten to if I just helped myself the whole time.
Man, that's beautifully said. I also want to just bring out the fact that, frankly, you clearly sound like a person who loves their job, and
Mhm.
have a great company that you work for.
It was made for me. Like, literally, like, it's my job.
Exactly. And I just want to say that in advance, because at no point has this conversation came up, but from my perspective, based off of your skill set, your resume, you seem like a person who actually has freedom when it
Mhm.
comes to your profession, because
Yeah.
you could literally say, you know what, I want to go to California. I don't
Yeah.
want to live in Cincinnati. and go work in California for some company doing the same thing. Or you can go to Florida, or you go to Florida. You can go pretty much anywhere
Right.
and have a job in. Am I wrong? I mean,
No, you're
you
right.
can
I mean,
get numbers, but it seems like it would be in pretty much any company. You can go into an engineering industry, or
right.
you could go into just working for some small mom and pop shop. I don't know why you would do such a thing, leaving a major corporation like this, but some people have those reasons. But it seems like you have the freedom to just up and leave and do your job anywhere
Right.
and get compensated fairly.
Right. Yeah, that's real. And I think what I found is success begets success. One success leads to the next success that leads to the next success. And failure is the same way. Failure leads to another failure that leads to another failure. And so if you've got a string of successes, people are going to recognize that, and so I think what I would say is I could go somewhere else because as you have success in companies, other companies recognize that. They know your resume. They talk to other people in other companies. A lot of these folks are connected. A lot of these folks have conversations with each other. And so the decision I have is just to make sure I'm in the best position to be successful. And because my company has continued to show that, look, I'm going to invest in you, I'm going to develop you, I'm going to give you what you want, there's no reason for me to leave at this point. I think it's really comes down to not so much what it is that you're doing, but what you're in a position to be able to do. And I've, over the course of my career, been in a position to do more and be more successful. And so I'm not going to hop off that train in the interest of, chase something flashy or interesting. But at the same time, you have conversations and you continue to do the things that make you successful. And at some point, in the future, you might find that, as an example, somebody else might find that an opportunity suits them better. But I've not been in that position quite yet. And so I think it really is just about continuing to do the things that make you successful and honing in on them and refining them. And the good news and the good things will continue to come your way. That's what I have faith in. That I can't necessarily create or control my destiny, but I can influence all the people around me that could create and control my destiny.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk numbers, man. Let's talk numbers. From the first time you were paid for the skills in this industry,
Yeah.
was it ever anything in college that you potentially did that allowed you to get some practice and get paid at the same time?
No, I had no prior experience before college. I was very much educated on the academic way of doing things, but my career has always been about me figuring it out as I went,
Yeah.
and gaining expertise as I went.
I know some people are hustlers, especially in the finance industry, where especially in college, numbers, and people are like, I don't really want to do my taxes, so they'll get like some college kid or somebody they know and trust to do those type of things for them. So that's what I was getting at.
Yeah, and I will say the practice didn't come in actually like doing the work. It came in just knowing enough about what was going on to have a conversation. And so I very early on became a resource to people, even if I didn't know exactly what they needed or what they wanted. I knew enough to help them along the way. And so I've always had the experience of being an expert in my space. That's never been that's been the continuing factor throughout my career, is that I've always been an expert and I've always known more, or at least a lot more than other people in the room that weren't experts.
And that's from all the research and the hard work and the exposure you allowed yourself to gain. And that,
And it's not always financial information. Sometimes it's behavioral economics, where like you're trying to figure out how people operate in a space where like they're stressed or they have pressure. Sometimes it's just understanding art and how to interpret, different things in different ways, right? So the broad base of my knowledge is not honed in on finances, right? It's comprehensive. It's a thing that can apply to any situation. So I'm not just a financier. Like I help people get to a point where like they can achieve their goals, and you can't do that knowing a lot of things.
yeah.
I
So
can't be the least informed person in the room. I guess what I'm saying. I have to be one of the most informed people in the room.
okay. So your first position out of college, the accountant role for your company.
Right.
if you want to say your salary, because obviously you're not in that position anymore, feel free, or give me the entry level range salary for somebody coming into a position like that.
Yeah, I was paid, I think it was like 47,000, I think, coming in.
Okay. And is that normal?
I would say I negotiated my salary. Um, it was competitive.
Mhm.
My company does a competitive stack where they look across other competitors and they see what they're bringing people in, because nobody wants to be the person that pays the least amount of money, because essentially you don't get the best talent. So I think my starting was like 44, and I negotiated up to 47 with the signing bonus.
Okay. Negotiate, negotiate, negotiate. Like that is so understated and that comes up so frequently, but people don't understand the importance of developing that skill, because that skill and that information in how to negotiate allows you to raise your income just in a conversation. Like somebody offers you something that you may have wanted, and there may be a little bit more they can give because it'll give you more freedom and peace to not be thinking about the next check, because they can pay you more through a negotiation if you just figure out what it is that you have to offer in that negotiation.
Yeah.
I think that's really important that you mentioned negotiating. Did you do anything to develop the skills of negotiating? How did you even know how to negotiate as a fresh out of college student? Well, employee.
Yeah, so I knew to negotiate when they went from interviewing me to telling me how much I'm going to enjoy my time there. And so negotiation very much happened when the shift went from, hey, you seem like a nice guy, would you like to work for our company, to, hey, we really need you to come in and work for our company. And so I knew at that point, when I had enough chips in my hand, to say, hey, look, the first offer, if it's fair and I feel comfortable with it based off of my conversation with other people that are getting offers, because in college, as you're graduating or as you work with other people that are getting jobs, you kind of talk through salaries and things like that. So you kind of have a sense of, okay, where people getting offered, and they're more open about it. I think there are websites now that kind of give you a sense of what people are being paid. But back then it was just about conversation with my peers in college. And so I kind of knew where they were at, and I was like, all right, that's where I kind of want to be. And so I went in there and, basically had the position that, hey, look, you want me now. You basically told all these other people to go kick rocks. You're not going to go ask them to come back and replace me. So I'm going to ask for a little bit more. And the way I did it was based off percentages. So I said, give me like 10, 15% more with the bonus of this much, and we'll call it a deal. And, of course now I know what the process is, right? They went back to their finance person, like me today, and they said, hey, look, can we afford it? And of course they could, because it's no skin off their back. And if they get the right person to roll, and they're gonna develop them, I'm gonna pay you back multiple times over. So you have to know your worth and what you're bringing to the company, and understand that, like, they'll pay it if they really want you and they know what they're going to get. And so that's what I've approached it. And at some point, you'll get to a point where they start giving you money because they know how much you're worth.
Mm-hmm.
I hit points in my career, 3, 5, 7 years, where they came around like, hey, Derek, we just, gave you a little raise. We know you got a lot of offers coming your way. They don't know, but like they can understand what the timeline is on people. And so, most companies won't offer you money unless they feel like you're not being paid what you're worth.
Yeah. So you're actually you've mentioned it, but I want to repeat it so they understand what you were saying. You said you were responsible for, did you say 100 or hundreds of millions of dollars?
100 million and change.
Okay. And I just want to point that out.
Change.
Yeah. When you say something like that, that means that you're the one that's safeguarding something that could really like the 40 may not impact the company, but maybe 2, 3, 4 million may impact the company, because you don't want to just eat that. So
Right.
to have somebody they can trust with over 100 and change is absolutely worth the pay of whatever they're paying you, because of how much you're allowing them or any company to be able to not have to stress over. The shareholders don't
Right.
have to stress over this basic infrastructural need.
Right.
And that's important because that shows the value of a person in your role. And once again, how you may have the freedom to maneuver in this industry as a whole. Do me a favor, because I recognize that your role, especially in a company like yours, can obviously go all the way up to CFO, depending on how good you got at your job and how ambitious you were or are. What is the salary range for a person on your path? So we started off at about 44, 47. Mm-hmm. What is a true salary range for a person that may take on this role?
Yeah, a beginning director, someone who's like newer to the role, will start to earn six figures. So that's 100,000 or more. Someone more seasoned in the director role, between 130 and 175, depending on how many years of experience you have or what company you work for. I'd say if you get to like the vice president role or the CFO role, your salary ends up being a lower portion of your pay. A lot of times those roles come with stock and gifts. And what that means is that the company doesn't pay you, make it up $25,000 in money. They give you ownership in the company. And as the company grows and is successful, so is your stock. So and those VP and CFO roles come with contracts and like that. But in the director role that I'm in, it's coming in at six figures and then working your way up. I mean, unless you're like really seasoned or really good, I mean, you could make upwards of 300, 400, but it all depends on the industry and where you're at. Like San Francisco is going to be different than Atlanta. It's going to be different than Cincinnati, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. Do me a favor. Speak about because we live in a world where Jeff Bezos went from, I think, 118 billion this year to 185.9 billion, and is going to continue to do so. And many people hear that number and think that's in his bank account. That's not in his bank account. That sounds very similar to some of that cost structure that you're talking about for the CFO, where it's more of have ownership into the company. So what does that actually look like liquid? Does he ever actually get to have access to that 185 billion? If tomorrow he was like, you know what, I'm done, would he actually be able to receive 185 billion liquid?
Yeah. So in that Bezos scenario,
that's exact, by the way, that's like actually physically able to hold when I say the word liquid.
Yeah. So in that Bezos scenario, specifically to him, not necessarily the director role, but if he sells that much of his stock, he'd have to let the SEC know. And as soon as he let the SEC know that he's selling all that stock and he's putting all that stock onto the market for people to buy, that stock price is going to drop a lot, like a lot. And so strategically, what these people who have these billions of dollars do is they just keep their money in that stock, because if people know that they're selling their stock, there's a likelihood that there's going to be more shares on the market, which is lower the price, and that the CEO knows something that we don't know. And so we've got to sell our stock too. And so if you flood the market with a bunch of the same thing, the price is going to drop. And so in the scenario that you said, if Bezos sells all 185 billion of his stock or decides to, he's not going to get 185 billion liquid for it. He's going to get something less for it, because as those shares flood the market, the demand will go down because there's a bunch of stock available. So he's never going to sell all that stuff.
Yeah, I've never heard it broken down like that. So now you've intrigued me. We're at the tail end of this interview, so definitely want to dig into a couple of things, especially the fun stuff that I feel that your expertise can enlighten people about. So let's stay here for a second. And so what you're saying is a person like Jeff Bezos, let's keep him as the example, it makes things easier. You're really betting a lot on that company maintaining in order for your net worth to stay on that level. But if you're never able to really acquire 185 billion or 190, I mean, not 190, but 186 billion, then what are you actually able to potentially acquire? So when you see somebody with a net worth of 185, if he was like, you know what, I'm not going to just be Gates where I step away and I take some of my money and then I also have it over here. I want to step away and I want all the way out. I just want to be a recluse. I'm going to buy these 3 islands, essentially make my own Bezos country and live there from my days on because I can. I realize that I'm essentially free to do whatever I want, and I actually want to be one of the few people on the planet to decide that I want to do whatever I want. How much money do you like? And this is a guess. Obviously, there's no way for you to absolutely know unless it is. Would you guess that his 185, 186 actually is? And I need to keep adding that 6 so people don't really understand. You gotta understand $1 billion is significant. So 185 to 186 out loud sounds like not a lot, but that is astronomical numbers. So I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to them for the record.
It's all dependent on how much you sell and when you sell it. So if he wants to do all those things, he can step. Bill Gates is still living off of his stock. Like Jeff Bezos, if Jeff Bezos wants to buy a house, he just sells enough Amazon stock to go buy the house. Right. If Jeff Bezos wants to go buy an island, he just sells enough stock to buy the island, right? So when you said liquid, it really is liquid because it's saying, hey, look, if I put this out in the marketplace, somebody's going to pick it up for this price. So the only situation where he doesn't have his 185 is if he really tries to sell it all at the same time. But he really has the 185. It's real money because there's a buyer out there that will buy his shares with the confidence that those shares will hold value and increase in the future.
Wow. That is
so he has access to 185, and so it never will change unless the stock price changed. But these rich people, all they do is they just sell shares in their company to convert it to cash where they can go, buy other things.
What's the dividends look like on 186 billion in shares?
I don't recall. I don't know if Amazon pays a dividend quite yet. I have to go back and look. So a lot of these growth companies, a lot of these companies that are especially tech focused, they reinvest their profits into the business. So they don't give their profits to shareholders. And again, don't quote me. Amazon might give a dividend, but I'd be shocked if they do. Typically, what happens is any profits that they get, they reinvest in the business, which in theory raises the stock price even further. And so companies that give dividends are typically more mature. They're not going to grow 10, 20, 30% every year. And their shareholders are looking for something more tangible. But if Amazon stock is growing 20, 30% or 10, 15%, the investor's not going to demand a dividend because they just got their money through the price share going up.
Yeah. So the reaction you got from me was because I love. So I have maybe like 7 movies when I'm trying to feel inspired in any particular way that I will watch over and over and over. Christmas time is coming around, so my favorite Christmas movie, which has nothing to do with motivation, it's that time of the year for Friday After Next to get to get watched. But that ain't what I'm talking about. The reaction you got out of me is because one of them is Wall Street, like the actual Wall Street movie with Charlie Sheen. Right. I also liked part 2 with Shia LaBeouf. And I remember that moment when they were talking about his mentor, I believe, killed himself because of the prices. And it's making me think that, wow, you go from 185. If the stock plummets,
you have nothing.
You have nothing.
Yeah,
and
zero.
That is absurd. Like, I feel like at a certain point, you hit 186, you just automatically, I got 186, cool. Who wants to buy 10 billion in stock so I can guarantee I have 10 billion liquid?
If Amazon starts failing or they start disappearing, if they make it let's say Amazon, I don't know, does something crazy. The people who have invested in Amazon's future will start to pull their money out. And as they pull their money out, that stock will drop. That's why companies disappear. Stock is really just a projection on where the company is going. It is a bet on the future of that company. And so the stock price goes up because the people think, this company's going to do really well in the future, and I'm going to gain on account of it. And the stock price goes down because people are like, hey, this company's not doing too hot, right?
Yeah.
And so the stock price is in many ways a reflection of the sentiment of how successful that company will be in the future.
All right. So off Jeff Bezos, back on to you. I'm looking at your wall. I'm looking at just it looks like that may be a lonely hanger hook right there.
Yeah, that's the fire extinguisher. I pulled it down because it looked kind of tacky.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Nonetheless, you seem like a person that would fit the definition of a minimalist.
Mhm.
Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I don't own or put value on things.
Yeah, because your experiences are really cashing in for you,
Right.
and that's a lifestyle in itself, which is one I've thought about because I don't care about a lot of stuff, but I also have a lot of clothes because
Mhm.
I grew up with a mother, sister, grandma, auntie,
Yeah.
and so yeah, so I'm surrounded by women, so I'm not gonna act like I don't have a closet full of stuff and another closet full of
Yeah.
stuff.
I got 10 of the same shirts in the closet.
And
And
so that's what I'm actually looking into. Like I
another
love
thing that you
black.
like.
Yeah, I love black. I don't even really like. I wear white shirts when I have to, but I prefer the black shirts and the dark
Mhm.
shirts, the light blue like that. Um, and so I'm bouncing. I've been like, all right, if you look at my closet, you'll see so many navy blue
Yeah.
shirts, just so I don't have to think about it. Like I like the freedom of not thinking, and that's kind of that minimalist idea where it's just like I don't put all this energy over here. I just,
Yeah. I mean, the way I look at it is more people are more interested in what I'm doing than what I'm wearing.
yep.
Right. People are like, dang, Derek, you got a nice outfit on. They're like, dang, Derek, you on the field? You know what I'm saying? Like, so I, I just never, nobody ever commented me on like my style or way I look. They're always commenting on like, damn, like where'd you go? Where were you at last week? Oh yeah, and now I have a story to tell. I don't have a story to tell about my outfit.
Hmm.
It's not that interesting as far as I'm concerned. So that's why I don't put a lot of effort, energy into it. And it's easy for men because like we can get away with just being mad regular. I mean, we can be dapper, but like I said, if you're dapper but not having a great time or like doing dope stuff, like it just doesn't inspire me. I'm just
I
not.
feel that, bro. I feel that. I feel that a lot. So knowing money in a capitalist society,
Mhm.
is that what triggered you to be a minimalist or to live a lifestyle the way that you do? Because I mean, I know you've talked about your parents,
Yeah.
but once you actually become educated on finances, because anybody can be frugal based off of their parents, but not go off to college and learn finance.
Yeah. Right. I
That's the
agree.
really good thing. Like people
I
live in a capitalist country and don't know or understand money. And
Yeah.
you have done that on a high level of
Mhm.
a Xavier University. So is that like I know of course I know the roots, but is that what allowed the tree to grow?
Yeah, I mean, the minimalist is a very much a derivative of this idea that like I don't need a lot of things to have a good time or like to like enjoy myself. So it all stems from this idea that like not that I'm sacrificing or that like I have some idea of don't have some idea of what luxury is. It's just I don't put value on those things, you know. I mean, even the people that are around me don't put value on those things. So make it up. If I go to a friend group or an environment where like they put value on those things, then yeah, maybe I would consider it or reconsider it. But I'm not even in an environment that values, hottest trends or like the latest designer clothes.
Hmm.
All the people I surround myself with or that I'm surrounded by don't wear those things, and so I would actually look like weird if I wore Jordans every day or like had the latest designer stuff. So I don't think it's a function of my value system. It's just a function of my environment and what it requires. And and so yeah, so like my friend group or my circle values experiences more than they value things. And again, me saying that doesn't say that things aren't valuable or like things don't aren't valuable in other spaces. It's just not valuable in my space.
All right, man. That and that last part I think was a great point to just mention. You have done, and that's what people need to hear. I hope they heard it. a successful job in not only knowing yourself, but making sure people around you know who you are, so they're not pressuring you to be somebody or something that you're not. As well as you have people around you that sounds like they potentially value similar things that you value,
Mhm.
which makes life easier.
Oh yeah,
And actually probably makes it better because they may be giving you advice or little
yeah,
secrets to maintain what you're doing in on a higher level.
exactly right. And I gotta tell you what, the people that don't feel that way, think that way, they don't come near us because they think we're weird or that we're strange or that we don't, which is why I think if you step out in the world knowing and believing and acting like you want, the people that are attracted to you will be drawn to you, and the people that aren't attracted to you won't bother you. And so I haven't even decided these people are surrounding me or like this is the life. It's just all these things beget everything else because I am walking out in the world in the way that I think I should, in the way I'm most comfortable. And all the people that are around me agree with it, and all the people that aren't are somewhere else. So
Okay. So
I'm
can
like I'm like in a little bubble everywhere I go. I don't really have bad days. I might have bad moments, but I don't have bad days.
that is dope. I have one last big question, I guess I should say, and that is, so for me, riding the bus, it takes me back to where I grew up, the way I
Mhm.
grew up, and so yeah, there's negative connotations to it for
Right.
me. Um, but as an adult, I would say it's probably a lot less because if I go to New York, I'm willing to hop on the sub, DC, Chicago. So I understand that that's how a lot of people get around, and it is sometimes more efficient. But the
Yeah.
bus and even those ways of transportation, they just for my time. That's where my question is going is about time.
Yep.
I have so little control of whether or not this bus is late,
Right.
when this bus is coming, if that bus driver is going through something and may
Mhm.
drive slow or traffic,
Right.
that it doesn't like I don't like that part. So because to some degree, and you absolutely know this, because that's why you're traveling, because you
Right.
understand the value of your time and your experiences.
Yep.
How are you dealing with the fact that you don't have control of time when it comes to riding on a bus? Because that part, it really gets to me. Like I feel my body. I got a
Yeah.
physiological reaction to that.
Yeah, the way I've learned it is yes, the math works out to be about twice as long as a normal trip. So if the trip was going to take 10 minutes in the car, it's probably going to take 20 to 25 minutes in a bus.
Hmm.
What I found though is that I'm not just riding the bus, I'm working on the bus. So I'm either reading a book or I'm listening to a podcast or I'm doing research or I'm in my phone, I'm catching up on social media. Like I'm doing all the things I can't do while I'm driving. And so to me, it's not a waste of time. It's just me spending time that I would have otherwise spent doing other things. Um, and what the luxury of my lifestyle is, I don't have any place to be at any particular time. So, my job is flexible. If I'm late from work, then I'm late. If I'm early, then I'm early. I don't have kids I got to cart around. I don't have to be anywhere any particular time that I haven't predetermined I have to be there. And because all these things are scheduled, I can leave and arrive at any given time because I can just prepare in advance. And so the bus really is an inconvenience for me. And that's what I found. Like, if it was an inconvenience, I wouldn't do it. I'd be like, look, it's time to get a car. And you know why I can get a car? Because I've been riding the bus for the last 2 years. You know what I'm saying? So, like I think the bus is nice because every day I have something to show for it. And I don't feel like I'm losing too much of my lifestyle on account of it. I just kind of adjusted. And I know that connotation sounds miserable, but I flipped it. I've been like, look, I can. And bus got Wi-Fi now, and it gets to me everywhere I need to go, and I can just, maneuver and operate in a space that says I can do things while I'm doing other things.
So I know you're big on retirement. I'm not
Mhm.
going to say how long until you want to retire,
Yeah,
just out of respect.
thank you.
But I'll say this.
Young, let's put it like that. Young,
I'll say
prematurely.
but here's my question though, because I am certain, like based off of the way you're calculating things and crunching numbers. So notice how I'm asking this question:
Mhm.
how many months or even years? How much time would be actually set back by you buying a car? Like if you bought a car,
Mhm.
obviously I just couldn't picture you having a car note if you bought a car. So I would see you actually buying a car for a reasonable price for its whole the utility, the utilization of it.
Yeah.
And I'm curious how much time, not the cost, because
Mhm.
that's not what matters in this equation.
Right.
How much time would you actually be losing towards your retirement if you bought a car?
Zero. Zero.
But this is kind of being stubborn, low key.
Yeah, no, I mean, the retirement conversation is very different than the what do I want to do next week or in the next 3 months.
Hmm.
So the bus to me is more a function of living a lifestyle that says, hey, I'm going to sacrifice and be frugal while I'm during the week. And then like on the weekends or like when I want to have fun, I can go out and do other things. The retirement conversation has been locked in since like I started work, right? As soon as I got on the job, I was like, yo, how can I not have to work ever again? So that's all taken care of. The way I view the bus is this extra $200, $300 a month I'm not paying on a car note or gas or insurance or anything like that. I can put towards other things in my lifestyle that I have more value, that add more value to my life. I don't care what I'm riding around in. How much time it takes isn't as important because I don't have like a fully developed schedule outside of work. And so I'll sacrifice a little time to get a little more money to go spend a little more time somewhere else.
Hmm. All right, man. All right. Well, I definitely appreciate your time. Do you have any major takeaways that you want to leave with our audience?
I think I think I will my bit of advice I've been given lately is be really connected to what you want, um, and really think about that and drive that home from a personal perspective, because that can help shape and guide you on whether or not what's coming your way is what you need or what you want or what you don't want. So be very in tune with yourself, and eventually, like things will start to be much more clear. Oh, and save your money if you can. Like save your money if you can.
Yeah. Yeah. And the minimum number in pretty much every financial book I've seen is at least 10%.
Yeah,
I
I know that can
I,
be a
I
luxury.
always try to go over, but you said
I know
what?
it's a luxury for some people, but if you can do it, because one day closer to not having to work again is a really good feeling.
Yeah. And I think the way they broke it down is like after 10 years of 10%, that's a whole year's salary. May not, I mean, obviously your salary is going to continue to go up, hopefully. And so it wouldn't be true to what your current lifestyle is, but it would clearly be a living wage at least for 1 year.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I always say I gotta have a buffer between me and poverty.
yep, yep. So, man, I definitely appreciate your time. What I got from this interview is a stress on know yourself,
Yeah,
looking at your face and how unbothered you look, how clear
truly.
your face looks. You're like, dude, you look like you live a stress-free
I'll
life.
be chilling, bro.
I
I'll
don't
be
think I've ever seen you frown.
chilling.
And I'm honest. If I'm honest, I don't think I genuinely do not feel like I've ever seen you frown.
Nah,
Um,
I'm good. I appreciate you acknowledging that, though.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So, I mean, is definitely kept when you don't have so much stress, and peace of mind
Mhm.
is worth a lot. And the little that you spend opens you up for the grandeur of the life that you potentially can have compared to others that are
Yeah,
trying to appear to have a grand life.
right.
The other part is and I hear people say it often, and I always have to stress it: positioning. Make sure you're in the position and you're ready while you're in the position for
Right.
a great opportunity. And while you're in that position, make sure people know you. Stress
Yep.
this all the time. What you know, who you know. But it
Mhm.
seems like the number one thing that keeps coming up more and more and more is who knows you. Because
Right.
who knows you makes an actual job for you, makes the
Right.
opportunity for you that you always wanted. And while you're in a position of knowing yourself and understanding exactly what you want, you are articulating that to the proper people. So as they see your talent, they see that you're always trying to add value. That's the last point that I would say: add value.
Mhm.
From what you've explained today is, as they're seeing that you're adding value, you want to add value, they're going to help you maneuver into more things you want, and they're going to also compensate you in that way, because at the end of the day, they want you around. Who doesn't want a person around that wants them to win? Like if you make people know, not think, make people know that you want them to win, they're guaranteed to try to help you win. So you will continue to allow them to win. And that's a powerful thing. It's so valuable. I hope everybody remembers this guy is waking up on Mondays and not dreading going to work. He may be a little bit tired depending on when he's traveling, but he's absolutely still waking up clear-eyed and excited to get to it. And we've talked about numbers today. Remember that you can't be anything you want when you grow up, but you can be in the finance industry. You can't be anything you allow yourself to be exposed to or to pursue, but you can't be anything because there is no position titled anything. Figure out something and fill in that blank. So with that, man, I appreciate your time. To it is.
All right, peace.
Hey, man, that was fun, bro. That was absolutely fun.